Bleep, 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 bleep. Hello, hello. It's Leonie Dawson Refuses to Be Categorized, the podcast where I talk about whatever the fuck I like in terms of creativity, business, marketing, soul, life, parenting, all the things. Basically, whatever I'm feeling passionate and inspired to talk to you about, I'll talk to you about it. I'm not going to be fucking categorized. I'm a human. As that dude, Walt Whitman, said, I contain multitudes. And I do. I totally contain multitudes, and so do you. And this podcast is a beautiful celebration and reflection of that. So today I wanted to talk to you about productivity hacks. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba. So I want to talk to you about getting more things done, not necessarily spending more time working though, because I think that's bullshit. And in fact, I'm really against like the hustle movement and the idea that you need to sign away your life in order to create really powerful things. I remember seeing a social media post of some bropreneur who I don't follow. It just came up on my stream, and it was a photo of his first class like plane ticket, and he was like, you can totally like you can totally fly at the front pointy end of the plane, but what you need to do is you need to hustle, you need to sacrifice. I work 20-hour days, 7 days a week. My 3 kids barely see me, and that's what it takes in order to fly like the pointy end of the plane. And I was like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you'd have to be fucking dumb in order to, um, sorry, I shouldn't be so blunt. No, I'll go there. Like, there is fucking nothing on God's green earth that would be worth it to me to not see my kids grow up. Secondly, if the only way that you can get to the pointy end of the plane is to work like that, you're not that smart, because I fly the pointy end of the plane and I work 10 hours a week. And I don't work 10 hours a week just like because now I'm a multimillionaire. No, I've always only worked 10 hours a week because previously I worked in the Australian government. Um, and then I didn't quit that job until I was pregnant and well, until I actually gave birth to my first kid. And I had a kid who didn't want to be away from me, and I didn't really want to be away from her either. And so I learned to craft a business in very, very small amounts of time. And I've kept that up. I've kept up like 10 hours of work, and I've been able to create over $10 million revenue by working 10 hours a week. So when I look at how I've managed to be so productive, how I've managed to create maximum results with the minimum amount of, I'm not going to say effort because it's definitely taken effort, but the minimum amount of time required so I can stay focused on having a nice life and being present for my kids and for my husband, I realized there was 10 things that like I really hold on to, and in fact I've got them written beside my desk so I can refer back to them when I need to. So I'm going to share with you that process of how, I don't know, maybe you can fly at the pointy end of the plane if you want, um, and not have to work stupid crazy hours in order to do it. I should say here as well, asterisk, because I'm very concerned about climate change as well, is that I don't fly very often. I don't travel very often. Um, and when I do, I make sure that I, like, where you allocate you give extra money so that you are carbon neutral. Um, but still, I think that like we totally travel too much as a society. That's just my personal opinion. But if you ever like want to metaphorically fly at the pointy end of the plane without having to be a fucking hustle douchebag who never sees their children, um, then these are my productivity hacks. Da 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 da. So first things first. Jim Rohn, the author and sales expert, says we are the average of the 5 people that we spend most of our time with. And so you need to make sure that they're good ones. You need to choose to surround yourself with people and with mentors who help you to raise your game, who help you to be more accountable. So either join a mastermind or get a mentor, or work with the current friends that you've got to be more accountable and to be goal getting together. But who you surround yourself with and that mentality is actually really fucking important. So for me, it's something that I've had to consciously choose who I hang out with the most. And I'm super happy to hire people or buy into a mastermind or whatever it is in order to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with people who have the same level of energy and intensity, and really inspire me to lift my game as well. Number two is to turn off your internet. The internet really is like the biggest time suck on the planet. And yes, I run an online business, but I do not require access to it constantly in order to be able to run that online business. And what's more, I don't need access to all of the sites. So when I'm working, I use an app, or like the Self Control app, which is for Mac. For PC users, you can use a Cold Turkey app. And there's a bunch of other ones you can use as well. And they actually limit your access to a whole bunch of sites, and you can choose which sites, and you could also choose the sites that you are allowed access to, or you might just ban yourself from the internet completely. So I already have mine pre-populated with the ones that I'll allow myself access to, and that is my website and um, Google Drive, where I can do all my Google document and my accounting software, and then Kajabi as well, because that's what I use in order to run my whole online business. So those four things I can pretty much do absolutely everything on. And for those of you who are like, oh my God, but like my job is to check social media, I'm like, calm your fucking farm. Unless you're a social media manager, you do not necessarily need to be on there all the time. And even if you are a social media manager, I would be batching tasks. So if you've got social media to do for your business, I would set a 5 to 10 minute timer and do it within that, and write yourself a list of like, okay, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to respond to 5 comments, and then get the fuck out and go do some real work. Because so often you're like messing around on social media and you're like, this is work. And it's like, no, unless you're actually making a fucking sale, that's not real work. So make sure that you are hyper aware of how you're using the internet, and that you're not wasting your time. Number three is to kill off 80% of your current task list. So Pareto's law is an economic law. It says that 20% of our work creates 80% of our results, of our profit. So 20% of our activities create 80% of our sales. Likewise, we might have 20% of our clients that bring in 80% of our income, and the remaining like 20% of the profit, where you're like, okay, so if it's 80% profit, what's the rest of the 20% come from? That comes from 80% of your work. Does that make sense? So 20% of your work creates 80% of your profit, and then 80%, the remaining 80% of your workload creates only 20% more profit. So I don't aim to make 100% profit. What I aim to do is make 80% profit, kill off the rest of the shit that's only going to give me 20%. And then, one, either have a nice fucking life, or two, go and create another idea that would create 80% profit for doing 20% of the work. So, what you need to do is look really clearly at your tasks and make sure you eliminate the busy work, the unprofitable tasks, the non essential, and just do your important work. And if you're saying to me, Leonie, but what is the 80% the 20% that creates 80%? Well, it depends on your business. So, the best way to get some clarity around this is do the the breakdowns, the finance breakdowns in the 2020 My Shining Year Business Goals Workbook. You can get them at myshiningyear.com. Those are my best-selling workbooks, and they've been used by over 400,000 people worldwide. And it's going to take you through some really important things. The first is looking at what what your best-selling products are, your top 5 best-selling products. Then you also want to look at their profit margins. And then I want you to like reverse engineer from there where that, like, what are the bare minimum bits that you need to do in order to create that 80% of profit? And then kill off everything else. So for me, I went through a time where I hired a lot of staff because my business was growing rapidly and I thought that was the thing that I needed to do. And what I discovered along the way, and this is absolutely my own experience, not all business owners' experiences, but the larger the team that I had, the more superfluous tasks got added to it. And so my income went up, but my expenses went up at the same time because they were like, okay, well, we've got all this more work to do, so we need to hire these more people to do this amount of work. And nobody was looking clearly with Pareto's principle of whether that work was going to create 80% of the income or whether it was just that 80% of tasks that was only going to create the 20% of income. So even though my business grew really rapidly and I created more revenue than ever, my profit margins did not go up. And that sucked. And plus, I just didn't really, and I didn't at all enjoy the process of managing people. I just realized like, this is not my fucking wheelhouse. What I love doing in my business is just being able to go away into my office and hide from the world and not do anything. I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to create and share whatever is inside of me. And I found when I had staff, instead, all my time was spent managing the next fire that had come out and like the next person's like emotional crisis or the next fuck up that had happened. So I realized like through that process, you know what, it's actually much better for me to run a more streamlined business and instead of insourcing by hiring a larger team, um, just outsource. So work with external agencies to complete projects. So, for example, I wanted to do a website redesign. Instead of having my own graphic designer on staff to do it, I worked with a graphic designer who has her own team and just did a contract for that specific thing. I'm also working on creating funnels and Facebook ads at the moment. Again, I didn't hire somebody onto my team because that would mean I'd have to manage them. Ew, gross. And instead, I work with an agency on the outside. So when you're working, there's bonuses and like pros and cons for both of those things, whether you're insourcing or outsourcing. And as my accountant says, Leonie, like there's only two options here, insourcing and outsourcing. Everybody prefers something different at like what works to their strengths and their personality type. You've just tried insourcing, you hated it, so now you're like, oh, okay, that's the experience of learning that I need to outsource for my business instead. So I outsource now and love it so much more. But the most important thing is when I decided to downsize my business and right size it to the point where it felt great again. When I looked through all of our project management files of all of the tasks that were being done, I killed off more than 80% of what was being done because they were absolutely not mission critical. They were not creating that 80% of profits, and instead it was just busy work. So I'm really like, I keep a tight control. I really like very, very high profit margins. Like I'm around like the 90-95% profit margins now, um, which is fucking sweet. And I prefer to stay in that really high echelon um, because it's just that much more fun for me. I do have one part-time VA and she works for other people as well, and she's just a contractor. Um, and that's actually works really beautifully for me. So Pareto's principle, 20% of our work creates 80% of our profits. And guess what? I'm only going to do the 20%. Number 4 is to write down your 3 most important tasks. Do it for each week and before every single work session as well. So your three most important tasks for the week ahead. I usually do this on a Sunday night. It's a Monday morning when I'm recording this. So I did this last night. I make it nice and pretty as well on my iPad because I'm fucking in love with my iPad and my Apple Pen. And so I use GoodNotes in order to create my to do list and my plan for the week ahead. And so I think about my 3 most important tasks following Pareto's principle of what's going to create the maximum impact for minimum effort, what's actually going to get me real results and drive my business forward this week. And I do the same thing for each work session is like, okay, what's the 3 things today? And I keep it close to hand. So if I'm using a piece of paper, which I regularly do, I keep it next to my computer, or I keep my iPad next to my computer open on my to-do list for the day, and I've got my highlights for the 3 most important tasks. And that way you're going to stay on track instead of just getting caught in, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm just fucking around on the internet. Like, screw that, get some important work done, and then get out and go have some more fun, like in the rest of your life. Number 5 is to tell someone your goals and your task lists because research shows that we thrive when we have accountability to keep us motivated. This is a reason why I created my Get Shit Done Club, which is kind of like an online co-working space that includes daily accountability. Plus, we have a call every single week where we turn up and we get shit done together. It is so much fucking fun. We have hundreds and hundreds of members. It's been running since the start of this year, and we closed off enrollments and have just opened up for new enrollments. And the women who are in this and experiencing the magic of daily accountability, they fucking swear by it. In fact, I was only going to do the Get Shit Done Club for 3 months. That was what it was originally scheduled as. And all of the members were like, Leonie, I can't be without this anymore. Like, this actually has made major traction in my business, major traction in my goals. So can we make this permanent? And I fucking love it too because I get so much work done. And plus, it's really beautiful just to have this posse of women who I get to see every single week and find out how their business is going and give them some mentoring and advice and see them thrive as well. So that's really fun. So if you want to join the Get Shit Done Club, it's on early bird special at the moment. If you go to leoniedawson.com/shit, and that URL makes me laugh so much. But you can sign up this week and you get it at 25% off for the lifetime of your membership. So it's only $14.95 a month. It's really a high-end mastermind at cheapest chips prices, and the results people are getting are completely extraordinary. So make sure you go to leoniedawson.com/shit and jump into our accountability club because it's fucking phenomenal. Okay, number 6, make your smartphone dumber. So I delete off the social media apps on my phone and it saves me so much time. And of course, on your Apple, if you've got an iPhone, you can tell how much time you spend on your phone each day and exactly what sites you're on and where you're spending that amount of time, how many times you pick it up. Now, I actually make my smartphone dumb and I delete off my Instagram and my Facebook. I keep on my Facebook Messenger because I use that to talk to friends. And I'm totally fine with having that on there, but it's just not addictive. And it wipes off my capacity to just keep on scrolling on shit. And what I've found is by doing this, one, I'm actually mentally so much happier and I don't compare myself as much. I'm actually not somebody who compares myself at all. I think I'm pretty fucking magnificent just being me. But I noticed, like, for a while there, I was getting really into Instagram, and started comparing myself, and I thought, this is really fucking weird. I don't like this feeling whatsoever. And um, so I started experiments to see how I could subtract that feeling from my life, and discovered that as soon as I took social media off, that impulse disappeared within me. So that was fucking awesome. And secondly, creatively, I discovered like I was kind of in a little bit of a rut, and I started getting this voice of like, oh, but like you don't really have anything to share, like it's already been created, like other people are doing that, like blah blah blah. And I thought, ew, like I've never had this experience in my life when it comes to creating either. So obviously it's something outside of me. And again, when I deleted it off social media apps off my phone, ta-da, like I don't have that experience, and I'm creating more now than ever. Now I'm creating more now than ever. So my productivity soared when I deleted it. My mental health improved so much, and just my general zest for life. Now, I'm still on social media, kind of, and people are like, yeah, but how are you still posting? I actually just reinstall the app just to post something, and then I delete it again afterwards. Ta-da! It's gone. Um, I will still read blogs. I use Blog Loving, the app, or I'll like use the Medium app, so I can still read that way. And I find that when I read blogs, I actually just feel inspired to write, and I don't compare myself. I feel great afterwards. I just like the compulsion to create is really strong after reading blogs. So it really depends on the kind of medium that you're intaking. And so, like, you might be somebody who listens to podcasts. Just check in. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, obviously, you're listening to me right now. Is it something that adds to your life and makes you feel like, yeah, I've got a voice? I can create something that I want to create. And if it doesn't, like, fuck it off. Fuck off anything that doesn't make you feel extraordinary and powerful and creative. And you'll also save a little time. Also, handy hint, I do the same thing on Facebook on my computer. I have something called the Newsfeed Eradicator, and it's a plug-in on Google Chrome. Newsfeed Eradicator. And what it means is I can access Facebook as long as I don't have my self control app on, of course. um, but when I go onto Facebook, I can still go into groups and everything like that, but I can't see the news feed of what everyone's up to. And so if there's anyone that I want to see what they're up to, I actually have to type in their name, but it means that I don't scroll. There's nothing like the endless scroll is the thing that's the time waster here. So when you eradicate that from your life, you usually will feel so much more clearer mentally, and you also will have saved yourself like a fuck ton of hours in the day as well. Number 7, and this is related, create before you consume. So when you go into a work session, I don't want you like looking at everybody else's shit and see what they're doing. Instead, just start becoming obsessed with what you're creating. I don't want you to compare anymore. I want you to create instead of consuming everybody else's crap. I want you to write instead of reading everybody else's stuff. I want you to make shit instead of consuming what everyone else is making. You can still have consumption, but it has to be mindful, and you need to, like, first and foremost, have a really strong relationship with what you're creating and what you're crafting with your beautiful life. Number 8 is to ride your wild donkey. And I probably should do a whole podcast episode about this. Let me know if you think I should. But riding your wild donkey, it's a free ebook that I put out years ago. I think my 10-year-old daughter was a baby at that point. Um, so there you go, a decade ago. And if you Google Leonie Dawson, Wild Donkey, you can get the free ebook that we made back then. It is beautiful. It's illustrated. It's painted. It's just scrumptious. And it's got my daughter's handprints all over it as well. So the Wild Donkey method is, if you can imagine that a creative idea is like a wild donkey, and it turns up into your paddock, and your paddock is your responsibility. And when a wild donkey turns up in your paddock, Your only job is to write it until it's done. And then it can be set free into the world. And I highly recommend that if you have a wild donkey, aka a creative idea in your paddock, then do ride your wild donkey in the fastest amount of time possible. So, for example, I have my e-courses 40 days to finish your book and 40 days to create and sell your e-course. And the reason I make it 40 days is one, you absolutely can write a book and finish and sell your e-course in 40 days or less. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of people already do those courses and already complete that, and complete their book, complete their e-courses. Because here's the thing, when you have a short, intense deadline, you can pour your energy into it and get it done so much faster. And what I find is if you're like, oh, well, I'll write a book in the next 6 months, fucking spoiler alert, it's not going to get written. So you need to like reduce your deadlines back, monofocus wherever you can, just get your fucking wild donkey ridden and set it free. And here's the other thing I've discovered after, decades of creating, is that when you get into the habit of creating something and getting it finished, it's when you start something, you get a big burst of energy. Getting it finished is fucking hard work. But when you do get it finished, you get this huge soar of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. And that energy helps you to like go on with the next project. And if you can reduce your time between starting and finishing those two big energy bursts, then you are going to have even more energy to be able to create more things. So, for example, um, in the last couple of weeks, I decided to write an erotic novella, which is about 15,000 words, and I got that done in 1 week. And as soon as that book was done, I was so filled with energy and excitement. I started on book number 2. And I've created so many more things since then as well, because I just get deliciously addicted to the feeling of starting something and finishing something. I swear to God, finishing something gives you so much energy. It makes you bolder, it makes you braver, and I highly fucking recommend the experiencing of finishing it. It's like when you have a baby. If you have a baby without medical intervention, right? And even when you do get medical intervention, but sometimes it gets interfered with depending on the kinds of medications that you have. And I'm not saying that like all births need to be medication free. What I'm saying is that the birthing metaphor is that if you give birth without medical intervention, too much medical interference, you get this huge surge of energy once baby is born. And, it's like the big love hormones. And it's also, like when you complete something really hard physically, you actually get that sense of euphoria. Like some people get it from doing exercise, they get that euphoria afterwards. I don't fucking get it from exercise. I never have, and I'm so jealous of anyone who does. And the only time I've experienced it in that way is from really hard childbirth. Uh, so I don't go around like going, yeah, let me birth out another baby, because obviously I'm a pretty shit breeder. You guys know that if you've been around me for enough time. I get chronically ill during pregnancy. But what I am trying to say is I'm just chasing that high of the post birth bliss. And so finishing your projects is like that. Run for that bliss at the end, and you will feel so beautiful. Like you'll just feel so powerful, and it's just the most incredible feeling. So that is the art of riding your wild donkey. Oh, also, if you want to find out about those courses, 40 days to finish your book and 40 days to create and sell your e-course, just go to leoniedawson.com and you can sign up straight away and get something done within 40 days. Yeah, well, let's do it. Now, number 9. Number 9 productivity hack is this. I want you to quit second guessing yourself. Fuck that nonsense. How much time do you spend procrastinating, afraid, or second guessing yourself? Because here's the thing, right? I want you to think about it from a logical, rational perspective. It is really unproductive. It's really unproductive use of your time. It does not help anybody. You're not helping anyone. You're going to feel miserable if you do it. So, therefore, it's not a great way to spend your time. What you could be doing instead is creating and making shit happen. And that's the greatest fucking feeling on earth, even when it's really hard. And that actually gets you closer to your goals. So, spending your time second guessing yourself, procrastinating, or wondering if you're good enough, it's bullshit. It's a waste of time. Like, just don't bother. And instead, just go, well, that's a waste of my time. And instead, I'm going to create instead. It's time for you to quit that unfun time wasting and instead just trust your voice and divine gifts and share them. And that feels so much fucking better. And number 10, my number 10 productivity hack. And this seems counterintuitive in a way, but it absolutely fucking works. Have regular time off. Make sure that you recharge your brain and your body. Make sure you get a fresh perspective by having designated no work blocks every single day, every single week, and every single year. Because all work and no play makes you burnt out and unproductive. So I'm going to give you some examples. I have some specified no work times in my day. That's in my mornings. That's my time with my kids and my husband. And and then I do some work in the afternoons, and then I make dinner and we have fun together, and then my kids go to bed pretty early still, and then at nighttime I usually, if I feel like doing work, I might do a little bit. um, Otherwise I just usually just mess about doing creative stuff and watching Netflix with my husband. um, and then each week I absolutely do not work Saturday, Sunday. um, and then make sure I have regular periods off each year as well, weeks and weeks where I'm not doing anything. And my friend Laura Rhoda, the entrepreneur, she says you've got to slow down in order to speed up. And so sometimes you need to like take a step backwards and reflect and review in order to be able to zoom ahead. It's kind of like that time, like if you're somebody who likes archery or whatever, like that time where you spend like lining yourself up before you shoot your arrow. That's really important. And even though it looks like you're not doing anything, it's actually like reflecting and working out what's next. And also just remember, like, go have a fucking fun life. Go do extraordinary and wonderful things that have nothing to do with your business as well. So this morning I said I ordered a skip bin, and I said to my husband, I am going to demolition the the half wall on our veranda. We've moved into our acreage property about a year ago now. I think it's our 1 year anniversary actually. Yay! And the veranda is lovely, except it's got this weird kind of fibro half wall that was put in by a previous owner at some point. It doesn't really fit with the house, and it was just kind of fugly, and it cut off being able to see the acreage, which is just the dumbest thing on earth. So I got a sledgehammer out and I spent the last 6 hours demoing it. And I didn't listen to podcasts. And instead, I just gave myself, like, sometimes I think it's really important to do things that are completely unrelated, because then you get a whole bunch of new ideas come through. The overwhelm, like if you feel overwhelmed by stuff, sometimes your body needs to move in order to digest it. And sometimes you just need like hard manual labor in order to process big experiences, big feelings, and get some clarity around what to do next. And so that's what I did. And I feel phenomenal. And I feel so excited to dive into work this afternoon. and make some big magic and miracles happen. Now, um, I did something really cute, and I turned all of these habits into a printable poster for you so that you can print it out and put it next to your desk as well. It's super cute. If you go to leoniedawson.com/10, the number 10, then you can get my 10 productivity hacks that has helped me create $10 million in 10 hours a week. I love when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, 10, 10, 10, it all lights up. I love it when that happens. So leoniedawson.com/10, that's just a completely free PDF for you that you can print. Um, and of course, if you want to join me in the Get Shit Done Club, which is my super awesome and super fun accountability and mastermind and mentoring club, make sure you sign up this week so that you get 25% off for the lifetime of your membership. It's only $14.95, which is fucking ridiculous. I see so many entrepreneurs that, sell these kinds of programs for tens of thousands of dollars. I just prefer to just help as many people as possible. So $14.95, and you get so much in it. You also get free my self-sabotage solution e-course. You also get my free productivity goddess bootcamp, and you get my free printable daily planner as well. It's something that I produced back in 2015, and it was crazy popular. People loved it so much, and then I decided I didn't want to do as much printing anymore. Instead, I wanted to move to self, because I didn't want to have a big team. So I wanted to do self-publishing through different services instead. So I discontinued it, but it's the number one thing that I keep on getting asked about. And so I decided to release it as a free printable that you can use, and it's your endless supply forever and ever. So leoniedawson.com/shit. I hope these productivity hacks have helped you. I swear to God, if you use them, you will see the fucking results. So make sure you print it out, and then start using these every single day, and you will see the fucking results. I promise you that. Now, let's go out and have a magnificent Monday and have an incredible week and make some big magic and miracles happen, because the world needs us and we are here and we're ready to shine. I'm sending you so much love. Big hugs.